All right, ladies and gentlemen, in this video we are going to look at the conclusion here of 11.1 as we show how to convert degrees to radians and vice versa. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about what a radian actually is. And before you watched this video, you should have watched the video that kind of shows exactly what a radian is in comparison to a unit circle. But I'll do a quick little refresher course before we continue on. A radian, if you kind of imagine that you've got yourself a unit circle right in here. And if you end up having an angle created here with a radius here, okay? What ends up happening is that a radian is created by this radii. And if you imagine that that blue line that I just drew kind of gets created into this arc right in here, that gives us 1 radian of measures. And if I were to take that arc again, that would give us 2 radians of measures. And if I were to take that same arc again, we would get 3 radians of measures, and so on and so forth. And so radians is just a different way to measure angles, just a different way to measure angles. And again, we really need to make sure that we look at specifically that video before. So this is kind of our conversion. If we're still kind of struggling on what a radian is, this slide may help a little bit more. So let's take a look at this one if we're still not 100% sure here. So this is what we're kind of representing. If we have our radius as r specifically, and we make this one arc right here, also r, that means that it has a degree of 1 radian based off of that radius r, okay? And so 1 radian, just simply put, is the measure of an angle in standard position whose terminal side intercepts an arc of length r, okay? And so I hope my last slide was a little bit easier to realize of what a radian is versus what I think personally is a little bit more of a confusing technical definition. And again, the video that precedes this is a little bit easier to know what a radian is based on the technology that they use in it. And let's talk here for a second in terms of what a radian is in terms of degrees. So when you get into some higher level mathematics, you're going to be using radians a lot more, but for our purposes, a full circle we know is 360 degrees, but 360 degrees is 2 pi radians, 2 pi radians. So, roughly 3.14 times 2. So it's 2 pi radians for this full circle. So half of the circle from here to here would be 180 degrees or pi radians or pi radians. So let's take a look here real quick and going back to our conversion. If I want to convert from degrees on to radians, I will multiply the number, right? All right, the number of degrees by the radians over the degrees, okay? And I always tell students, since 2 and 360 will always cancel to 180, always think of these two. Just always think of these two here. Some textbooks put both of them in because it's true, but I think it's so much easier to think about this. And if we're going from radians to degrees, we're multiplying those radians, all right, by the degrees over the radians. And so let's do an example here, and we'll see kind of what cancels out, and I think it really helps. So if I convert 45 degrees to radians, I'm going to put it as 45 DEG. You'll see why, because they're going to see some things cancel. So it's 45 DEG for degrees. I'm going to multiply that by pi radians over 180 degrees. So now do we see what happens here? The degree symbols or the degree labels cancel out, and I'm only left with what I want. I want it to be in radians measures. So now I get 45 times pi over 180 total radians. And then you want to simplify as much as you can. 45 goes into 45 one time and into 180 four times. So really what we're saying is that 45 degrees is equal to pi over 4 radians. Pi over 4 radians, okay? What about the opposite way? What about the opposite way if I'm going radians to degrees? If I want to take 3 pi over 2 radians, I would multiply it by the opposite. I would take 180 degrees over pi radians. So why am I doing it in the reverse order? Well, think about it. Now the radians will cancel on out, and I'm left with just my degree, what I want in the end. So I would take 3 times 180, right? 3 times 180, or you can cross simplify and then divide by 2. It's up to you. Let's just do that. Let's cross simplify. How about that? So right now, 180 is about to be divided by 2. That's really what's about to happen here, right? 180 is about to be divided by 2. So 180 divided by 2 is 90, and 2 goes into 2 one time. But look what also is about to cancel out from cross simplification. The pi's will also cancel on out here. So really what we're saying is that 3 over pi over 2 radians equals 270 degrees. Okay? And again, 3 times 90, 270, right? 3 times 90, 270. So that's where we got that from. All right. On to the next one.